Hey guys, welcome back to the shop and to another build. And I've got a special one for you today, mainly because we get to use new wood. Nothing recycled, nothing reused, and it's a little something different. This is not for the farm at all. This is actually for the gym. The owner there asked me if I could make a series of Plyo boxes to replace or to add to the ones that are kind of getting used a little heavy at our gym. And I've made several of these before, but I've never had the opportunity to make them out of birch, hardwood, and the only reason we're using birch is because at this point in time, it's actually cheaper than just standard old pine. So I'd much rather work with it. It's easier than pine, so I'm excited about that. So first thing I'm gonna do is start breaking down this plywood to make it smaller, more manageable pieces. About as close as I can get. Yeah, that's right on it. Okay, so now I can continue cutting out my pieces of plywood. These are going to be 30 inches long, 24 inches wide, and then a depth of 20 inches. So I've got to cut all that on the table saw to make sure that all the cuts are exactly, the sides are exactly the same. And then we'll fit it together like a jigsaw puzzle. All right, silly me forgot to record or push the record button when I was cutting all these on the table saw, but I put a thin kerf blade. This is a 7 1/4 inch thin blade in because the width of the plywood is 48 and 3/32 or so, and I wanted exactly 24 inches. So I put a thin kerf blade in so I could cut 24, flip it over to the factory side, and cut that, just shade that little edge off so that all my pieces would be exactly the same. Yes, I know, I heard you, beast. So I've got 4 pieces that are 30 inches by 24. I've got 4 pieces that are 24 by 20. And then I've got 4 pieces that are 20 by 24. And all of them are the exact same. So now I've got contrary to what my friends think, I am not a machine, certainly not a CNC machine. So when I cut these puzzle piece notches out so that they fit together and they don't have any wobble in them, I'm going to do that on the table saw. I'm going to switch it back to the big blade and put the table saw sled on there, and then start cutting those notches out for these boxes to go together. I found my old drawing stashed away from the ones that I built before, and the way that I like to do this is on the 20-inch side they get an 8-inch cutout. On the 24-inch sides and the 30-inch sides they get a 10-inch cutout. I'm going to set stop blocks on my table saw sled so that I don't have to measure it. I can just push it in there, hit the stop block, make the cut, and I know that it's in the right place. In order for these to fit in together, the groove on this piece and the other piece that goes 90 degrees to this have to fit together. But if I cut them both at the same distance, the gap of the blade will make that fit real nice. So it'll make more sense in a minute. I'm going to mark out on each one of these what it gets, an 8 and a 10, just so I don't get confused when I start getting over there and start cutting. And I'll cut all the 10s, and then I'll cut all the 8s, and then I'll have to go back to the table saw and cut out the little sliver parts. I did create a little setup block out of the scrap piece that was cut off so that I know the height of the saw blade and also how much to set it when I get ready to cut this part off. So I've got 2 things left that I need to do before I start cutting out all of these pieces, the puzzle pieces. I'm going to take a 1/2 inch router bit and I'm going to route a 1/8 inch deep dado right in the center of these boards of the long end so that I can slide in a piece of 1/2-inch plywood cut square to give the middle portion of it a little bit of extra strength. I don't know that it needs it, but Ron, typical over-engineering thing. So piece of 1/2-inch plywood slid down in a dado in the middle, and then I've got to go ahead and cut my handles on this so that I can clean up the inside of it before I glue it together. Do a round over bit on it so it doesn't have splinters on it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut all these dados, cut those handles. Then I'll show you how to cut these parts out, and then we'll be ready to put it together. I use an 1/8-inch drill bit as the depth gauge here. My homemade drill press, 1.25" Forstner bit. Drill the hole. I've got it marked out. Drill the holes, then I'm going to draw a straight line between the holes. Cut that out with a jigsaw. Then I can do a round over on the handles and clean them up real nice. So it's going to take a little while to do this. Got my lines marked for my holes, for my jigsaw from hole to hole. One tip that I wanted to give is this is the inside. A jigsaw blade, the way the teeth work is any tear out that you get is going to be on the top side. It pulls the fibers of the wood up. So I'm going to cut it with the inside up so that the outside, or the part that everybody sees, should not have much chip out. We'll go ahead and cut. With the cut depth set at the exact thickness of the plywood, I raised the saw blade as high as it would go to get the most perpendicular face cutting into those notches. And without moving the fence, I'd made a mark of the center of each piece of plywood, lowered the saw blade, turned the saw on, and raised it up to cut out the female part of the notches. Now I'm finally to the point where I can start assembling this box. I don't know if you guys noticed, or maybe you didn't even care, but earlier I had cut my handles in the wrong piece. I actually cut it in this piece, which makes for really awkward handle placement. So I had to go back and recut these and recut my handles. Got it all straightened out now, ready to put it together. It goes together like a puzzle piece, or a puzzle. I'm going to be using glue and 2-inch screws, countersinking the screw heads a little bit so that they won't be, that they'll be below flush. And then I'll put a round over on it. I got to slide my little 1/2-inch support piece in the middle in the screw that I've yet to cut, but moving on. So, just about complete. It's turning out really nice. I'm going to take a flush trim bit and just clean up these edges. They're a little bit proud of the top here on each one of these. Clean those up, put a little 1/8 or 1/4 inch round over on it, hit it with a little sandpaper, and call it good. I like it. Looks great. do but to test it out. Can't send anything out that I haven't, you know, field tested before it goes. So this easy mode, we flip it up on the 24-inch side. Medium mode, and then for those that are feeling really spunky, we got a 30-inch mode. Woo! No jokes.